Hi, welcome back to another episode of In Conversation. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, and this week I want to talk about relationships. Relationships are the cornerstone of everything, like literally everything. Our lives are built upon the relationships and the connections that we make with the people around us. It's the reason that God created Eve to be in relationship with Adam so that he would not be alone, so that he would have a partner. And so I want to talk about relationships, why they're important, even the relationships that you no longer maintain with certain people. See, the thing about relationships is that God, He's so purposeful in how he connects us with people and with each other because nothing is ever wasted. We know that God uses all things, every experience, good and bad, ultimately for our greater good. And that includes even those relationships that you wish you never had. And the reason that I say that is because oftentimes those relationships, the quote unquote bad relationships, the friends that betrayed us, the boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, spouses that hurt us, that left us, that turned out to not be who we thought they were, those relationships are the relationships that teach us the most about who we are as individuals. And the reason that I say that is because oftentimes when relationships don't work, oftentimes if someone betrays us, if someone is disloyal, we tend to attribute that person's behavior with something that either we did or didn't do. And the reality is that that person being disloyal or that person doing something to betray you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with who they are, their experiences, and what their own lives have, or how their lives have contributed to those actions of betraying people that they quote unquote say they love and care about. We all have the power to choose how we're going to behave, how we're going to act, what we're going to do. And ultimately, that has nothing to do with another person and everything to do with who we are. So if you find that relationships that you once valued and appreciated and thought would never ended, then the reality is that relationship served its purpose in your life. God used that relationship, God used that God used that experience for a specific purpose in your life. And not all relationships, not all connections, not all friendships are meant to last a lifetime. There's a season and a reason for everything. And then there are those relationships that do last the test of time. There are individuals that are meant to be in your life forever because they are designed also to teach you something about yourself and about connection, and about how when the connection is strong and when two individuals are honest and loving and respectful of each other and the relationship, then that relationship lasts the test of time. But the relationships that we have with others are there to teach us something about ourselves that we did not know and that we wouldn't know unless we had that relationship and that connection with that person. And the truth is, as you grow and as you shift and you become more of the person who God has called you to be, He is also going to shift some of the relationships that you have. And the reality is that not every relationship is going to last through your evolution and through your growth, because they're not meant to. They're not supposed to. They're just teachers. They're just lessons. And sometimes the relationships that you made 2 or 3 years ago, that worked 2 or 3 years ago, are not going to work as you grow into something bigger and as you change into the person you're supposed to become, because that relationship, because that person that you're in that relationship with is not going where you're going. They're not growing in your direction. And sometimes your growth and your personal development and the change that's happening within you is going to be too much for that person. You're going to outgrow the relationship because you're no longer going to connect and bond with that person with the things that you connected and bonded with when you were a smaller version of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with evolving past relationships that no longer serve you. They serve you for a short period of your life, because that relationship is helping to evolve you. It's helping to grow you. It's helping you to shift, right? And it's helping you to get to where you're ultimately supposed to be. And then once you outgrow it, that person, that relationship is not going to understand. And you might be experiencing some of that now in some of your own relationships. And sometimes it happens with the people that you have been closest to, the people that know you the best. Those relationships that you at one time thought would never end are going to be the relationships that end. And they're going to be the most hurtful. They're going to be the most painful. It's going to be the hardest breakup that you have, but it's going to be the most necessary, because as you allow yourself to break free from that, you are going to connect with other individuals on your path that are destined to be a part of that continuation of your journey. And they're going to have things that they teach you about yourself and about the world, and just about human connection and relationship. And the best relationships are those relationships where the individuals embrace your change and where they allow you to change, and where they're not stifling you, and where they're not trying to hold you back to keep you where you are, to keep you from growing. The best relationships are going to push you. They're going to challenge you. They're going to make you want to step more fully into yourself and who God has called you to be. And those are the people that you want in your life. You don't want the people that don't ever want to see you succeed. The ones that are hating on you, quote unquote. I mean, I hate the word hate, but the reality is that there are going to be individuals who are not going to want to see you succeed and move forward and move on, because your growth and how much you've changed and your development is a painful reminder to them of how much they're still the same and how much their own lives haven't changed. And that's painful for them. And when that happens in your relationship, they're going to try to make you feel guilty about your growth and about your journey, because you moving on and evolving into something better is hard for someone who is stuck in their current situation and isn't doing anything in their own lives to allow for their own personal development and growth. And sometimes people don't want to change, and that's fine. But you should not feel constrained to a relationship with someone who's trying to hold you back because they are not willing to do the work to grow in their own lives. So don't hold on to relationships that no longer serve you. Don't feel guilty about your growth. Don't feel guilty about evolving and for wanting more out of your own life. Don't let people guilt you into believing that if you want more, you're somehow, quote unquote, selling out. Because the truth is, who doesn't want to grow? Who wants to stay in the same spot for their entire lives? I mean, human beings are not meant to stay in one stage. That's the reason we grow. That's why we evolve from being a baby to being a toddler to then being children and teens. And then we become young adults. Then we become middle-aged. And then if we're lucky, we become elderly, right? And we then get to a point in our lives where people are taking care of us and we no longer have to be the caretakers, right? But if we weren't meant to grow and to evolve, God would have never created us in that way. So don't feel guilty about your growth. Don't feel guilty about wanting to grow and about wanting to be more. And if you have individuals in your life that make you feel guilty about that, then it's time for you to reevaluate those relationships. And it's time for you to reevaluate that person's position in your life. Maybe they're too close right now. Maybe they have a front seat and they really need to be moved to the back somewhere where they're not as close to you and they don't have as much access to you. And it's okay to move people around and shift them around. You are not tied to any one person. You were born alone. You're going to die alone. But while you're here, you have an obligation to live out God's plan for your life. And that means that you are not attached to any one person that you are connected to right now. The only person that you should ever be connected to is God. And He should be the one that is guiding you. And He should be the one that you're listening to. And so for this week, I challenge you. I want you to sit with yourself. And I want you to ask yourself the hard questions about the people in your circle, about the people who are closest to you. And you ask yourself, are they elevating me or are they holding me back? And then that might require for you to make a list if you can't really pinpoint it. But list out all of your goals and dreams and vision. And do they support those things? Do they encourage you? Or do they just sit back and not say anything? And if they do the latter, then it's time for you to move them to the back and make space for the individuals who are going to encourage you and support you and help you get to that point in your life that God has called you to. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe, give us a 2 thumbs up. And if you know anyone who needs this message, please share. Until next time, I'm Nancy Ruffin, and this has been In Conversation.